Assalamualaikum and good morning everyone. A quick reminder to all participants, there is a couple announcement before we start the sessions. I would like to remind all participants to fill in their attendance and share their feedback about this webinar in Google Form provided in the administrative slide. The recorded session will be uploaded later, right after the session ends. Participants can snap the QR code for future reference. You can also use the link in the chat box to access your QR code. And I also would like to remind all participants to fill in the poll provided, and Secretariat team, please assist our participants to fill their poll. Ladies and gentlemen, we will start our session in 2 minutes. Thank you for your participation. Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Good morning to everyone. Assalamualaikum and salam sejahtera. Good morning to everyone, especially to Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Sabariah binti Putih, Deputy State of Secretary, Sarawak Civil Service, Performance and Service Delivery Transformation. Yang Berbahagia Datuk Ismail Hanis, Director of State Human Resource Unit. Yang Berbahagia Tuan Ismail Said, CEO of Leadership Institute of Sarawak Civil Service, Head of Departments, panel speakers, and SAS members. Welcome to Data Analytic Webinar Session in conjunction with Sarawak Civil Service 2021 Innovation Month. My name is Nadri Etis Haromi. I am your moderator for Data and Analytic Webinar Session today. I want to extend my gratitude for your participation on behalf of Sarawak Civil Service. Without further ado, I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Sabariah binti Putih, Deputy State of Secretary, Sarawak Civil Service, Performance and Service Delivery Transformation, to deliver her opening remark. Yang Berbahagia Datuk, over to you.
Thank you, Nadri, our moderator for the morning. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, salam sejahtera, salam Ibu Pertiwiku. Saudara Datuk Ismail, Director of SHRU, yang Saudara Haji Ismail Said, CEO of Leadership Institute, and her esteemed team and dedicated team. Distinguished speakers, Professor Dr. Aisha from University Malaya and Dr. Rajamani Sambasivam from Petronas. Yeah, and of course, again, moderator for this morning, Mr. Nadi, head of Data Analytics and Leadership Institute, heads of departments, ladies and gentlemen, yeah, and of course, a warm welcome to all of you for another interesting webinar organized by our Leadership Institute. Yeah. Let me dwell a little bit on the innovation breaking through the norms as the theme for this morning sessions. Yeah. And I also believe that, as you know, this is a part and parcel of our Public Sector Innovation Month. Yeah? Ladies and gentlemen, while COVID-19 has caused many upsets and challenges to the socio-economic norms, the pandemic brought in changes that presented and unlocked new opportunities for us to forge ahead for a brighter future, particularly through innovations. No doubt, the delivery of the public services since the pandemic is confronted by a challenging landscape that is very much different from what it used to be. Yeah, the way the public interact have changed, and things we used to think were not possible has now become possible, particularly because of technology. Yeah? So as I mentioned earlier, breaking through norms is indeed an topic or theme for this year Public Sector Public Service Innovation Month. Yeah? In the past 18 months or so, the pandemic has stimulated digitalization across sectors for all of us in the state public service. Yeah? It popularized work from home, or WFH as the new normal, and highlighted the importance of a resilient global supply chain in order to withstand black swan events like the COVID-19 pandemic. Yeah? Recognizing the importance of innovation, state government has paid special attention in its effort towards its implementation. Yeah? In his post-COVID development strategy speech, which was launched recently, our Chief Minister expressed the aspiration for Sarawak to become a developed state by 2030, driven by data and innovation. In an effort, in this effort, yeah, I believe the state and federal government, through Mampu and SSMU, or the Service Modernization Unit, in this year's Sarawak Public Service Innovation Month's activity has shown a good increase in participation, and this year agencies' involvement have also increased from 13 implementing agencies in 2020 to 26 implementing agencies participating from both the state and the federal public service agencies. Yeah? The number of Innovation Month programs also increased from 15 programs last year to 42 programs, where 32 activities were done online, yeah, or virtual, and 10 programs were done on a face-to-face basis. Yeah. Of the 26 implementing agencies, 14 are state agencies and 12 agencies are from federal departments. This is an evidence that the Sarawak public sector culture of innovation as the best way to improve service delivery amidst the pandemic. Yeah? And this initiative aims to transform Sarawak public sector through innovation. Yeah? It is indeed encouraging to witness the Leadership Institute's support through the development, deployment, and adoption of solutions in areas specific to the Sarawak civil service competency developments. Yeah? These innovative ideas, such as the instructional design, MOOC, and smart videography, are especially relevant in the world of continuous learning, where complex disruption due to the ongoing global crisis exposing its vulnerability and increasing the need for resilience. Comparable to organizations such as Petronas and University Malaya, where our speakers this morning hail from, innovation for the Sarawak civil service as part of our development strategies represents action steps that enhance productivity, develop new solutions and products or services. This comprehensive agenda, merging social, economic, and environmental dimensions of sustainability, must be supported by current modes of data collection and data analysis, calling for a data revolution that will empower people through access to information. And on that note, I must reflect the fact that the civil service transformation agenda that began on a structured manner since 2010, has been a decade, and the next decade would definitely see the elevation of this Sarawak public sector transformation to greater heights, and of course there is the need to align to the post-COVID development strategy that has been crafted by the state government and which has been launched recently, as I said, by the Chief Minister. And this area of data and analytics visualization, for example, is one of the one of the element that is considered to be critical and main component of the digital economy, which has been part and parcel of the bigger agenda of the post-COVID development strategy. Indeed, we believe that there is a significant knowledge gap which needs to be closed in order to ensure resources are dedicated to initiatives with a meaningful likelihood of impact. As the human capital development sector for the state, we have to understand demography, and we can harvest this through examples given through today's webinar. In recent years, the rapidly growing presence of emerging technologies could lead to the next quantum, to the next quantum leap. One, how data is collected, how data is analyzed, and of course, how the analysis is used for policy making and achievement of better results. Data-driven innovation forms a key pillar in the 21st century sources of growth for the state public service. The confluence of several trends, including the increasing migration of socio-economic activities to the internet and the decline in the cost of data collection, storage, and processing, are leading to the generation and the use of huge volumes of data. Innovations in technology is now enabling our human resource counterparts to analyze data more easily and visualize it in a compelling manner. The use of analytics enables us to gain insights that may have not been uncovered without the power of data by identifying empirically meaningful trends that have previously not been considered, such as predictive analytics, that allows the focus of employment life cycle and identify new performance markers. This sort of data visualization plays an important role to quickly and easily provide an overview of relevant data, because visualizations of complex algorithms are generally easier to interpret than numerical outputs. Something that makes sense to a lot of people in a more amicable and more easy to understand. In conclusion, innovative, because I'm here not to give a lecture. I believe you're going to have two experts in this area of work. And let me do a little bit of conclusion here. Innovative technology needs to be deployed in the right way and for the right purpose. Yeah, the narrative around a vision of prosperous Sarawak includes our capacity and capability to structure the influence and the use of data analytics that spur innovation. Data presents invaluable opportunities for us to innovate, but we must know how to explore its uses in the direction of becoming a developed nation by 2030, a reality. I believe the whole nation aspire to be an advanced country by 2030. Yeah? Moving forward, Sarawak will innovate using data to increase productivity, develop high-value products, improve safety of our people and assets, as well as enhance environmental conservation efforts. Yeah? And towards this end, yeah, I can say that we have just launched what I think 2 days ago, yeah, our smart city, Kuching Smart City initiatives. Yeah, it's first in the nation, and I believe there will be tons of data to be either collected, integrated, or generated out of this initiative, and there will be a lot more data scientists that we need. And obviously, this is going to be an interesting journey for our young alikes and the old people like us. Yeah, but I believe this is going to be a very adventurous, and of course, people like Nadri are very happy. Yeah, because they have a lot of data to churn and a lot of data to play around with, a lot of data to actually explain a lot of things and forecast a lot of things. Yeah, and of course, we'll be able to innovate a lot more things through all this data. Yeah, so this is going to be the way forward, and I've yet to witness these interesting moments. Yeah, with all of you. Yeah, and and I believe as well that through therefore, yeah, innovation is a must-have in our souls and continue to cultivate to be the principle that drives us to forward, to move forward. Yeah, through the programs organized, yeah, it should reflect the quality and the image of a new public servant. Yeah, continue this effort in the future so that it becomes a source of progress for the state public service, for the leadership institute, and be the key to be staying competitive. Yeah? And I also believe the fact that this is a continuous journey, as I said earlier, educating and sharing of this knowledge, especially in particular, yeah, is pertinent. Yeah, because cascading and getting everybody on board is the order of the day. Yeah, for all of us. Sometimes, as much as I, for one, am very excited about the journey, I also sometimes quite what to call that anxiety about the whole exercise. Yeah, yeah, because how much, of course, to me, I want to be honest. Yeah, the young sets of people that we have, there shouldn't be a problem for them to actually acquire this new knowledge. Yeah, it's just about getting them to be on board and getting them the right opportunity for learning and for getting more information. And of course, as I said, the order of the day for Leadership Institute is there will be lots of online learning, online seminars and webinars and so forth. Yeah, and of course, the state is very forward-looking in ensuring that many more public servants, civil servants, yeah, to underwent a process of what you call the enhancement and elevation of their knowledge to the next level, especially in digital economy, in various aspects of digitalization of the economy. This is going to be a very challenging, though interesting. I hope that efforts like this are going to be having more and more participants, and we see how it goes. Yeah, if we can have more, what you call, more sessions, yeah, maybe a structured learning later on, yeah, that would be very valuable for to improve or enhance the state public servants to embrace the necessary learning and able to be more skilled in the field they are going to deliver in a different form. Yeah. On a last note, my sincere gratitude to both our speakers for today, Professor Dr. Aisha and also Dr. Sambasivam, yeah, for your presence and invaluable knowledge that you're going to share with all of us, yeah, through these sessions. Yeah. We earnestly hope that we will have many more occasions of collaborations. Yeah, there are various innovative and interesting ideas showcased in conjunction with our public service, Sarawak Public Service Innovation Month in growth areas such as data analytics webinar reaffirms, yeah, that our belief that platforms such as our Innovation Month initiatives remains important to foster a win-win partnerships, yeah, between all agencies, strategic partners, academicians, and industry leaders alike. Yeah. Once again, to our Leadership Institute and CEO, Saudara Ismail Said and his what do you call that, highly committed team. Keep it up and keep the momentum going for this knowledge sharing amidst the pandemic. And I know you have done very, very well as and your team has somehow rather been forward into this era of digitalization and amidst and moving, getting our public servants to be learning what is it need to take for them to move to a higher level of excellence. Thank you very much to all of you, and hope everybody is going to benefit from this exercise and have a good day today.
Thank you so much, Yang Berbahagia Datuk, for your interesting and exciting opening remark. I should say that. Ladies and gentlemen, in today's session, we will be listening to the presentation from the practitioners and academicians' perspective. I would like to introduce our panel speaker for data analytic webinar session. The first speaker, Professor Dr. Noraisha binti Hamzah from the Institute of Mathematical Sciences, Faculty of Science, University Malaya. Assalamualaikum, Prof. How are you?
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you. Alhamdulillah. All right. And our second panel speaker, Dr. Rajabani Sabasivam, Chief Data Scientist of Petronas Digital. Hi, good morning, Doctor. How are you, Doctor?
Good morning, Nazri. How are you?
Yeah, good. I'm good. Hope you're doing fine. Right?
Yeah.
We would like to inform our participants that Professor Noraisha will present the first webinar session. Then we will take a 3-minute break before we start second webinar session by Dr. Rajabani and followed by Q&A session. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, one thing is certain, data analytics will only gain momentum for foreseeable future and will be at the core of countless new technology solutions. To support digital economy initiative and SES aspirations, reliance on data and analytics now outweighs strategy as a critical requirement in strategic planning, especially in organizational context. But what will data and analytics look like in the coming years? How will today BI and data analytic version evolve? How can we ensure that our service delivery stay competitive by using new emerging resources? There is no doubt that data and analytics and also BI tools are evolving at rapid pace. According to one McKinsey report, data analytics and information services will have the fastest growth rate at 16 to 18% over the next 5 years, while core administrative services are unlikely to see much growth due to automation. Interesting fact, isn't it, Therefore, Professor Noraisha will be presenting about thinking with data, data transformation, data science, and we also be covering the issues and challenges in data analytics. Let us hear and understand the importance of data analytics in 21st century and also in the civil service context. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Yang Berbahagia Professor Dr. Noraisha to deliver her presentation. Professor, over to you.
Thank you very much, Cik Najri. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and salam sejahtera to everyone, all the participants, and especially to Yang Berbahagia Datuk Dr. Sabariah, Deputy State Secretary of Sarawak Civil Service, Performance and Service Delivery Transformations, Yang Berbahagia Datuk Ismail Hanis, Director of State Human Resource Unit, Yang Berbahagia Tuan Ismail Said, CEO of Leadership Institute of Sarawak Civil Service, Head of Departments, Dr. Sambasevam, Chief Scientist, Data Scientist from Petronas, and also the organizing committee of today's webinar. Okay. First, I would like to thank you for inviting me to the Sarawak Leadership Institute webinar. Okay, I'm very honored to be part of this, as a speaker. Okay, and to share my thoughts. Okay. On data and also, how data can be transformed into insights, okay, and actionable insights. I must congratulate the Sarawak public sectors for the initiatives that they have, implemented, okay, to ensure that there is a continuous learning, okay, to make, what the delivery services and sectors, okay, to be more efficient and more effective in the coming days, okay. And to you, Datuk Sabariah, you have already said half of what I'm going to say, so should make my life much more easier here, okay. So what I'm going to show now is, a little bit about data from the academic public perspectives, okay, and later I think on the from the practitioners, maybe that Dr. Sambasevam will talk more about this. Okay, so let me just share with you my slides, okay? Oops. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about today is going to be, the title of my talk is From Data to Insights. As we know, okay, in today's businesses, in today's organizations, the use of data to support decisions is critical in driving actions. Okay, now this data are really valuable if we can translate this data in something that is of actionable, okay, insights. And for actionable insights to start, okay, there are several things that probably we have to give some thoughts to make sure that, things that we want to figure out, okay, and what are the things that we really want to find, okay, from the data, the value of the data itself. So therefore, that the talk is going to be on from data to insights. So next, okay. So the outline, I just outline a little bit about this very briefly. Okay, so I'll talk about a little bit about thinking with data, okay, and how we can transform data into actionable insights, and a little bit about the distinctions between data science, data mining, and also data analytics, and to have some illustrations, what sort of data that we're looking and how these are used in, for actionable insights, okay, and for making some good decisions or better decisions to our organizations. And also I will just touch a little bit about issues and challenges. So to start off, okay, so we look at, so what I have here is about thinking with data. So really what we have is to know what actually data is, okay? So from the perspective, people always think that data is about, value, something that are numbers and so on, but really a data is just a collection of informations, a collection of information or facts, okay, which really represents measurements or descriptions of specific situations. So these facts can be in several forms. They can be in numbers, they can be in symbols or words, and usually they're stored digitally. So really for data analysis to take place, okay, these informations that we have, okay, these collections of informations, the data, must be transformed and into clean, okay, you have to clean it first, okay, you have to filter this, okay, into a business-ready informations, right? So through a process known as what we call data integration. So when you have the data, there are several things that you need to do, and this is what we call the data integration. So this is about data itself. So you will have this, okay, so it's just a collection of informations. Now, when we talk about analytics, okay, so I have these graphs, okay. So analytics is the use of tools and processes. So really that you use to combine and examine the sets to identify patterns, relationships, and also trends. And really the goal of analytics is to answer questions, some specific questions, okay, to discover new insights and to help organizations to make better data-driven decisions. So usually what we say is that when you have data, when you have some analytics, you say let the data speak. Okay, so this is what we have. Okay, and so from this is what we have. So the deeper, in a broad, if you go beyond this, is what we call insights. Okay, and when we talk about insights in the broader sense, it is a deep understanding of the situations. Okay, is to an analyst, okay, or a user, okay, from the business perspective, maybe is to discover the patterns, okay, in the data, to discover some relationships between some variables that you're looking at that probably did not, you probably did not recognize them earlier on. You did not know that they existed. Okay, so what these are really important in helping the organization to make better decisions than by just relying on gut feelings. I think what we have previously was, I think this is what it is, okay? But now you're looking at the data, and your data serves as the evidence, okay? They're the evidence to tell you, okay, this is a better way of doing things, right? So when you have this, okay, so when you have these three things that you have the data, which is a collection of facts, you have the analytics where you organize your data, you examine your data, okay, and you have these insights into discovering patterns and in data. So what you can then go beyond this is probably to look at what we call actionable data insights. Okay, so really what this really is referring to are the actions which can actually increase the efficiency, okay, the revenue, the profits, okay, or the value of the organizations. Okay, so this is what we call actionable data insights. And also there are things like, active intelligence, which really refer to something like, you have data in the moment now, you're experiencing now, the awareness, okay, about every aspects of the organizations that you're in, okay, or the unit that you're in, okay, from the real time design, okay, to trigger what are the insights and the actions that are now. Okay, I think these are the things that probably you have actually experienced, whether at personal level, okay, or in the organization level. Okay, so these are the data insights that are used, okay, a lot. Okay, huge data sets, big data sets are used by, if you look at Spotify, okay, when you have this, okay, you turn on, they will give you they will just alert, there are some new things that are maybe related to what you like to hear, okay. And there are Netflix that, if you look at this, the next thing you see that, they come up with some suggestions, maybe you can view these things, or these are the things that are close to what you have seen, okay, and they're quite also interesting at par, okay. So it's something that are actually cooked very fast, okay, processed, and you can experience it quite immediately. You have ways, okay, so this is something tools that we are dependent on, okay, especially when you're not quite familiar to where you're going, or maybe you're familiar, but it's just that maybe you just want to know which route is the best, okay, so maybe that is going to be the processing time, okay, so in the moment awareness, okay. And you have Facebook, and you have Google, and you have Amazon. They are just critical users of data, of abundance of data. And you can do that too, okay? So now, today, what we are seeing is that many other organizations are mimicking what Google is doing, what, Amazon is doing. So you have things like Alibaba, you have all the platforms coming in, okay? And I think in a way, okay, COVID has actually made these things much more, quicker than we thought that we might be using, okay? Possibly we were a little bit late compared to China and other countries, and also Singapore maybe, because when SARS first hit, okay, we were not that badly hit. But out of this, okay, for China, this is where the platform, okay, the online platform, okay, the online business comes in, okay. So they were ahead of time, okay, after SARS. And so when COVID comes in, they are already there, okay. So, but now you're seeing that we are actually trying to mimic. We have Lazada, we have Shopee, and many other things. So these are the informations that we have. And I think as organizations, I'm very happy to see what Sarawak is doing. These are the things that we can use, we can help, we can take advantage, we can leverage, okay, in making our, organizations and what we do moving forward. So when we talk about data, okay, so there is an interesting thing here that, thinking with data. There is a book actually, if you want to read, okay, by Max Sharon, okay, or you can download this book, okay, just to give you a story about, thinking with data. But really, when you talk about thinking with data, is actually before you, begin with looking at your, the details about the data, is actually to have some kind of, you probably have a thought about how you're going to work with your data, okay? So maybe there are some questions that probably, are worth looking at, worth trying to, figure out what we're going to do with this. So maybe I think this is kind of exercise, this is kind of routine. So maybe you have to probably understand what is it that you're trying to achieve, what is the context here, okay? So try to, plan in your mind what are the things so that we know what sort of informations that we can gather, okay, and what sort of other informations that we can actually utilize, okay. And then we also look at, what are the specific needs, that like Datuk Sabaria was saying, the specific needs that we can address, okay, by intelligently looking at the data, using our data, okay. So this is another thing that probably we really need to, think about, okay. And then we have to also ask, okay, ourselves, at the end of this, okay, what will, when we have this, okay, what will meeting the need here, okay, using our data will look like, okay. So we try to vision this, okay. What is it going to be look like, or you try to paint a picture, okay, of these things, okay. And then you can also ask yourself about, okay, if I have this data, who will be the end users of this data, okay. And so you can provide that kind of informations from your results and from your analysis, okay, relevant to this kind of end users, because they are going to use these informations, okay. And with that, okay, when you do this, okay, so you usually, it's just like any other planning, strategic planning, you always ask yourself, how do I measure the success? Okay, how do I measure the success? Okay, so these are the sort of building block, or maybe to start off with your data. When you look at this, start thinking about, think with the data itself. Okay, so I have this quote from John Tukey. He's an expert in modern statistics, okay, in exploratory data analysis. He says that the greatest value of a picture is when it forces us to notice what we never expected to see. So this is something that is really interesting, okay, because when you talk about preparing your data, you want to see something that it's not something that you have seen, you already know, but there are things that probably in the data, okay, that can tell you something that you never expect. This is where you let the data speak, okay. You don't dictate, but you let it speak, because the data are your evidence. Okay, so much about my data. Okay, and then trying to visualize the data, okay, bring it to life, okay, and how to look at interesting things from the data itself. Okay, so much about the data. So the next one, I just want to say about a little bit about the types of data that you have. Okay, so when we say about data, they come in various forms. Okay, they come in structured form, they come in unstructured form, and you have in between, which we call semi-structured, semi-structured data. Okay, so when we talk about structured data, this is the data that usually statisticians will use in the past. Okay, and many of us are using this. Okay, so basically these are data that can be displayed in rows, columns, and also in relational databases. They are in the form of numbers, dates, strings. Okay, And from Gartner, it says that enterprise data, 20% of enterprise data comes from structured data. So you can imagine the other 80s from the unstructured data. And for structured data, that requires slightly less storage compared to the, to the unstructured data, and it's easier to manage. Okay, so whereas for the unstructured data, this data are data that you cannot really display this in rows, columns, and also relational databases like what you have, okay, in the matrix form for the structured data. And the data that you have is rather information such as images, okay, which is difficult to, to value them, okay. But these are informations, audio, okay, video, your word processing files, your emails, okay, which is in text files, okay, emails in text, the spreadsheets, okay. So these are unstructured data, and 80% of of enterprise data comes from this unstructured data. And this kind of unstructured data will require more storage, and they are more difficult to manage and protect with legal solutions. Okay, so these are the two sort of you can distinguish the data in this form, structured and unstructured. And in between is what we call a semi-structured data. So a combinations of structured and also unstructured data. Okay, so you have this huge big data, okay, whether it's structured, unstructured, or mixed or semi-structured data. So having the data in the raw form is not really interesting, because you really need to make sense of this data. Okay, I feel sorry because sometimes you have a lot of data, but it's not processed. You don't even know about the profiles of your customers, of your stakeholders. Okay, and here you need to have some kind of deep dive, really looking into what your data has. Okay, what is it in the data that can give insights, okay, and can give value to the organizations itself. Okay, so this is where we have when we have insights, it gives you something like to your organization. It can be you can have the workflow can be more efficient. Okay, the output will be more effective. Okay, so these are the kind of insights that we want. And if you are in a profit-making business, so it's going to make you make more profits, hopefully. Okay, so these are the insights that we want to learn from the data. Okay, so whether it's behavior data and so on, so these are the insights that we are trying to do. So really, we're trying to transform or translate from data really, and then we want to push it to the insights, okay. But to do this, okay, what we need is that there is a process doing this. Okay, the process, there are tools that you need, okay, in order to transform from A, which is your data, into useful insights. Okay, so basically, what you have is the data itself. Okay, this is the record of your data. We have been mentioning this. Okay, and then what you do is that you compare the data, or you do some cleaning, some processing. Okay, and digging some what we call this doing some diagnostics to the data. Okay, checking whether the quality itself, okay, whether your data is of a quality. Okay, the quality assurance of your data. You need to filter your data, because sometimes the data comes in many sources. Okay, you really need to check whether you have really the QA the thing. Okay, because I'm a statistician. Okay, because some of this data, what we call outliers. Okay, if you use some kind of tools, some kinds of methods, these outliers may influence your output. Okay, because it depends on the methods that you use and the assumptions that it has. Okay, so if there is no data filtering in there, okay, in the method itself, okay, it's assuming that the data are all clean. So you better make sure that your data are clean before you go through this kind of process. Okay, so cleaning, filtering the data. Okay, and also and also integrating the data from the various sources. Okay, so these are the things that you probably have to do. And then from there, okay, you probably need to dig a little bit, okay, visualize, bring it to life. Okay, identify the patterns, identify the trends. Okay, so when we have the data, we don't look at micro, at the minute things, at the data points itself. We look at the patterns, a bigger picture. Okay, we look at, okay, so focus on the pattern. patterns. Focus on the trends, okay? Not on the individual data. The individual data, the outliers, you can do it later, okay? And you can go back and see why is it different, okay? Is it a real cause, or is it something that is, you know, something unexpected and it's important to you, okay? Maybe you have to go and visit that, okay? Because outliers doesn't mean that they're bad, but sometimes it gives you an indication that there are things, okay, that are there for some reason. So we really need to explore that later. But other than that, okay, look at the bigger picture, look at the pattern, look at the trends, okay? It gives you information, it gives you, and you can do some predictive analytics for that. And then you have these experiences that you probably have gathered, okay, throughout your trainings, okay? The expertise that you have, okay, you can apply these experiences, and maybe you wanted to do some forecast, okay? So you have a good data, you have all these patterns and so on. So maybe you can go one step ahead and look at the forecast, okay? And you can do some kind of what we call predictive, okay, analytics, okay? You can probably, you know, this is where you have actions, okay? And maybe for some problems, maybe you can do a prescriptive analytics for it, okay? And also looking at and making decisions, okay, for the end user, okay, or for the organizations itself, right? So this is on the part of, you know, a sort of the higher end, the forecast, and also the corrective actions, okay, and then it just go back over and over again, okay. So here, okay, John Tukey says that, you know, an approximate answer to the right problem is worth a good deal more than an exact answer to an approximate problem. So posing, crafting the right problem is ultimate importance, okay? If you have an approximate problem, okay, then, you know, you will have a, you know, then you having an exact answer, okay, compared to having the right problem, okay, an approximate answer, that is much more valuable, okay? So this is what he's trying to say, okay? So first of all, what you have to do is that get the right problem, okay? Craft the right problem, okay? So this is a good advice from the legends in data, exploratory data analytics. So what I have here is really, you know, looking at the data itself, okay? So from the vast data that we have, which is called, you know, it can be big data, okay? So you can have voluminous data, okay? You can have, you know, data that comes at a fast speed that you can ever imagine, okay? Okay? And these data are really very important, okay? Because in today's climate, okay? At least for 2019 that I'm looking at from this article, okay, 90% of the world's data were generated over the last 2 years, meaning that in 2018, 2019, okay, 90% of what you see at that time, okay, were actually generated from these 2 years. So you can imagine the power of this data, okay? And every second, you can imagine every second. So you have 24 hours a day multiplied by 60, 60 minutes multiplied by 60 seconds. Every minute, every seconds of this, Google will generate almost 44,000 searches, okay? And if we look at email sent, okay, it's about close to more than 2.3 million emails are sent, okay? And if we look at tweets, okay, there are almost 7,000 tweets, okay, within a second, okay? And in YouTube, okay, where the videos are being viewed, okay, more than 82,000 videos are being viewed. These are data, okay? And here, okay, this is the amount, okay, of informations that are collected, okay, to generate that kind of traffic, okay? 21,000 gigabytes, okay, of traffic, of internet traffic, right? So here, okay, so by 2020, okay, he said that at least 1/3 of all data will exist in or pass through the cloud. So you need a storage, okay? And here, okay, so this is where, you know, we have to think about this kind of storage, okay? And one of them is, of course, at the moment, people are using cloud, okay, and also cloud computing. Now, so really here, these are what I already explained earlier on, okay? These are your data, okay? Preparing the data and then trying to generate the insights, okay? Using the various sort of experiences that you have and also the tools, okay? So even if you don't have, these are all, you can learn this, okay? You can upskill, okay? To get, you know, that kind of skills in order to be able to, you know, generate insights from your data. Now, if we look at this slide, okay, capitalizing on big data, okay, so we look at companies that really, you know, the big companies that are really capitalizing on big data to deliver the results, okay. So the leaders themselves, okay, 166% of them more likely to make most decisions based on data, okay. So they are reliant on data, okay. So 166% are more likely to make the decisions based on data, right? And about 2.2%, 2.2 times as much as they are, okay, would formally, okay, likely to formally have formal career path for analytics, okay. So they have this kind of, you know, some experiences in actually, you know, from this career for analytics, okay. And 75% of leaders cite that growth as a key source of value from analytics, okay. So they agree with this, okay, that the growth as a key resource of value from analytics. So what Cik Nadri was saying, that this is the thing, okay, and it is going to stay for quite some time, okay. So this is where, you know, how we should be able to, you know, capitalize on what informations that we have and really use it, okay. At the moment, what we're seeing that we are probably late in using this, but you know, it's better late than never, okay. So right now, I think we have youngsters who are actually data, you know, they're technology savvy. This is a time to, you know, build that kind of expertise, okay. Bring this into the, you know, academics, education, okay, curriculum, okay, to make them better prepared. But even if, you know, for those already in the, you know, working, okay, there are many ways of doing this. Okay, so having said that, okay, so I just say a little bit about data science, data mining, and also data analytics, okay. And really what we have is that very quickly, okay, about data mining, it's just a subset of data analytics and data science. So when you have data analytics, data science, okay, data mining is there. So if we look at this, okay, so you have data science skills, and you also have the data analytics skills, okay. They're subsets of each other, okay. They intersect, they overlap somewhere, okay. But data mining is a subset of both of them. So you have these overlapping skills. Likewise, basic statistical analysis, okay, both must have, okay. Some kind of programming, okay. So both, I think, will have R, okay, and some Python and SQL. I think that you can pick up quite easily, okay. Problem solving, okay, that is another things that, you know, I think for computer science students and also for statistics, that's not you know, that's one of the things that they have been looking at and using, okay. But I think for users of this is also another skills that you need to have, okay. And then the most important thing, and also the things that we also, you know, have to actually instill, is actually the data storytelling, okay. This is important, okay. So this is about data mining being a subset of this, okay. And there are other skills for data analytics, okay, in terms of, you know, data visualizations, okay, ability to use some of these softwares, and also probably to have their own sets of programmings that they can do with data, okay. And if you look at data science skills, okay, so you have more than just statistics and mathematics. You have the computer science base or informations or subjects or courses, okay, that are actually encompassed and that makes up that data science skills, okay. So as I say, this is, you know, you can have this, okay. Not necessarily you must go through a formal sort of, you know, degree kind of things, but there are many ways of doing this. And today you have all these courses like Coursera, you know, micro credentials and so on that you can pick up from this, okay. Now, as I've already shown, okay, data analytics has different scopes and goals versus data science, okay. So I've already shown you, okay, and there are several sort of skills, okay, sets, okay, and also goals, okay, that are specific. Probably, maybe, you know, sometimes it's sort of overlap, but really, when you talk about data analytics, when you talk about the goal is to use existing information to uncover actionable data, meaning that you use whatever that you have now, okay, to uncover actionable data. And this is in the form that, you know, what are the things that you can probably use, okay, to improve the efficiency of your work processes, okay, to make effective sort of, you know, solutions, you know, to the problems that you have, okay. Whereas the goals for data science, okay, it's really, it's beyond, just using to uncover actionable data, but to discover new questions, to drive innovations. So this is driving innovations is also is very important here. Okay. So to discover new questions. So from that insights, okay, you have new questions coming in. So these are things that are unexpected, okay, something that will probably drive innovations. So these are, the differences between what we have, okay. And let me just see why it's not moving. Okay. Right. And these are the processes, data processes that we have, okay, separating or between data science and also the data analytics process. So in data analytics, you have the pre-processing, you have the analytics, and also you have these interpretations and also evaluating your results, model data, and also making some models, okay, and actionable insights. Whereas for data science, you go on beyond this, okay, and where you have some models, okay, new models, new innovations, okay, and where you have some results, conclusions, okay, applied to the business, and you go on and iterate this, okay, to have this continuous sort of improvements, right? So that is, the distinction between data mining and also data analytics and also, data science. Now, so having gone through all this, data and also, the processes, okay, so when we talk about turning data into actionable insights, okay, so I have some examples or illustrations over here, and these are some of the illustrations that I would like to share, and those are the things that are very close to our hearts that we already know and we have already seen many times, okay. So the one that we have been, grappling for many months, okay, is on COVID-19, okay. And if you look at, our world in data, okay, I think most of you have been looking at this, from time to time, okay, looking at what it is, okay, and the intensity, okay, of the cases around the world, okay, the new COVID confirmed cases per million of people, because you see, when you have data around the world, there are some countries with many, the population is huge. There are some countries where population is smaller, okay. So when you have in terms of absolute numbers, okay, it's very difficult to compare because it depends on the size, okay. So somehow we sort of have to make sure that, things are comparable, okay. And by comparable, okay, what they have done nicely is actually to compare this per million people. So you bring it down to per million people. And this is where we see that, at that time, this is quite some time already. I think this data was, run, I think sometimes in, much earlier than now, okay. With that's why we're seeing that at one time, we were ahead of the other countries, okay. So when we say that our numbers is just like, less than 1 million and so on, but in terms of per 1 million populations, okay, so we were quite high there, okay. So if we can acknowledge that, okay, and this kind of things, this data, there's nothing to be, this is for actions, okay. This is where it tells you, okay, maybe these are the things that we really need to address, okay. So we have to be very open to, this kind of insights that we have, okay, some learnings that we have, and then to deploy the right resources and also the right actions to overcome these kind of problems, okay? So take this in good faith, okay, that whatever that we have at the moment, because it's telling us something, okay? Maybe we have not been very, brave enough to see, but today is borderless, okay? So it's very difficult to hide data because, it's somewhere they can pick it up, okay? But it's always a good thing to do because there is transparency, okay? There's sharing of knowledge. And this is where one can help each other, okay? So what is our data like when we look at the Malaysian data, okay? So when we look at our daily infections compared to what we have over here and here, okay, we were relying on from MOH, but those data that we have are really confirmed cases, okay? And they are tested, okay? Now this data shows that, you have about, as we say, daily will be about, 8,000, 6,000, and so on. Really, when I and my colleagues were doing some, looking at the data, and we're trying to write a paper on this, okay, we cannot rely 100% on the data that are being reported daily simply because they are not it's not reliable in the sense that because there are many other people, maybe they are asymptomatic, which are not traceable, okay, at the moment, at that time, okay, because we don't do a mass testing, okay, simply as that, okay. But if you look at our daily deaths, maybe that is more reliable because you have to report your data, okay. So here, okay, so if we compare with, the world data and looking at some of those that we can get from, the Institute of Health Metrics, okay, so we can see where we are, okay, and what we do is that, when we have data that are more reliable, we project it back, okay, and to actually have a better sort of estimates at what our data is like, okay. So what they have done here is actually they have beautifully done, okay, and look at some scenarios here, okay. So you have this, if you don't have any SOPs in place, what will be the worst case scenario? So this is going to be our worst case scenario, okay? So we have to know, if we have our SOP in place, what will it look like? If we have vaccination, what will it look like, okay? What is our current projection? So they're comparing this, okay? So if we can use this kind of insights, we can actually, mobilize our resources, okay? And have plans for our vaccinations, okay? So they're not just concentrated on one, but really to look, if they're looking at per million, we should be looking at this as well. Okay, how many cases per million in each state or something like that, okay, and then to have targeted sort of, but we're good now because, we have a lot of vaccines, so that's not a problem, so alhamdulillah. So data analytics for decision making, okay, so one of the examples that I have over here that I also want to share is actually, you use your data for us, maybe, for a higher institution, maybe what you can do is to turn this for marketing purposes, to target your right, students coming into the university. Okay, if you're trying to look for good students, okay, talented students. So where do we actually find them? Okay, so what is our data telling us about the students that we are actually trying to get them in? Okay, so this is from the highest institutions. Okay, so I just have for a foundation course. Okay, So what we have, probably here for these particular institutions, unique or something like that, okay? So what they have is that they have a distribution, they know where they come from, the students comes from, okay? So here, what they have is mostly the students are actually from Selangor, okay? Maybe because, maybe it's closer or maybe, closer to home or whatever for some reason. So this is what our distributions of the students from the various states comes in. So we know who we have within the campus, okay? So we can better prepare ourselves. And in future, if we want to target at other states, so how do we look at this, okay? In making sure that we have inclusivity, okay, and accessible to every other states, okay, fairly. So we also know that, the moment we offer with having this kind of distributions of students from our, from our applicants, okay? So usually when we offer, okay, to this sort of, batch of students, so how many will come into the university and how many will reject, okay, the offer, okay? So we need to know what is the sort of, the trend of students, the percentage of students coming into the universities. So maybe we are offering something like, say, for example, 1,000 places at any matriculation center, for example, okay? So maybe you can actually look at what is the sort of, or any foundation program. So you can look at, how many will likely to come to your organization, for example, because there's a huge sort of competition out there. Then if you look at, what are the students coming to your university, what are they like? What's their performance, So you know where they are, okay? So for example, here, there are more than 9 A's and above, okay? So that's where they are, okay? And even when you offer them, okay, some of them are likely to accept and some are likely to reject, okay? And you can see those the percentage who will reject and the percentage who will actually come into your program, okay? So that's very important to us so that we know, so the background of the students, okay? So we can better prepare our teaching, academics, and also all the, resources that we have in place. And also, we also know about their status, okay? In the public university, usually you have something like, 30 to 50% of the students are coming from the, B40 group, so something for us to look at, okay? And here we have something that is, depending on how you actually define your threshold for B40, okay? So that's another important thing that we look at. So based on what we have previously, maybe that was what we have, okay? and also reject. Okay, so with having this data, you can really target. Okay, and when you do your marketing, you can actually all right. Okay, you can actually do this. Okay, I got a note that my interconnection is quite unstable here, so I hope I'm with you. Okay, so
Alright.
yeah, so having all these things, am I okay?
Yeah, you're okay. Let's have another 2 or 3 more minutes, Doctor.
All right,
Yeah?
I
Is it
just go
possible?
quickly. Yeah, I go quickly
Alright.
very much into the data. Okay, and
Alright.
also the issue and challenges. Okay, to finish off. Okay, so when we talk about the issues and challenges, okay, the challenges as always, and also the issues are always data, and data. So here when we talk about data, it's always the availability of data. Okay, so the availability of quality data. Okay, so we're talking about quality data that are transparent. Okay, because we do not want data that are doctored. Okay, so we want data that are of quality so that we can make sense of it. Okay, they are data integrity of the data itself. Okay, and we're talking about the democratization of the data sharing. Okay, so which is something new for us, but it's becoming important now. Okay, in this kind of borderless world of of the Internet of Things. Now, another issues and challenges that we face, okay, especially in probably in Malaysia, maybe in my organization as well, is just shortage of skills. The competent workforce. Okay, for the public sector, it's even hard because I think we have we are sort of we have all these categories of support staff that we have. Okay, we have the N, we have all these things, and probably we don't have any dedicated sort of category for really data scientists. Okay, so maybe we have in Dossum, but maybe we don't have at any other places. If there are very few, okay, there is very hard to climb the ladder and so on. So there is a shortage of skills, and I think this is something that we have to look into this because they are important. And if we think efficiency and effectiveness of an organization is important, we have to invest in this. Okay. So finally, is a lack of support. Okay. So the lack of support, it comes in various manner. Okay. From the manager's point of view, right to the organization point of view. Okay. So it's really it's actually on your investment. Okay. For all these kind of skills. Okay. So how you actually support, how you provide this kind of support. Okay. So for example, in the organization, if you don't have data scientists or you don't have, so maybe how are you going to do this? Okay, so you're going to retrain them, okay, or you're going to provide tools, okay, to help them to actually do this kind of analytics, okay, and make sense of all this, okay. So there are things, okay, that we really need to look at. There are several issues, okay, and I think once we actually try and understand these issues, okay, and try to overcome the challenges, I think we should be in a better position. So I think with that, I think I better, I can, I think I have done my part. Okay, this is, thank you to everyone for listening. So maybe I'll take some questions later on. So thank you with that.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Professor Dr. Raisa, for informative and exciting presentation. I like when you talk about thinking with data, moving away from intuition to data-driven decision making. Also, you did what we call bring some sort of example, especially when you use this COVID-19 data and visualization, right, Doctor? All right. To all participants, hold your horses. Reserve your question for Q&A session later. I hope participants enjoy the first session. Soft reminder to all participants, please fill in your attendance and share your feedback about this webinar in Google Form. The recorded session will be uploaded later right after the session ends. For your information, we have about 511 participants so far, right, that joining our webinar session today. Ladies and gentlemen, it's already 10:41. We will take 3-minute break and come back again later. Stay tuned. See you again after 10 minutes. Sorry, after 3 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back now for our second session. Soft reminder to all participants, please fill in your attendance and share your feedback about this webinar in Google Form. The recorded session will be uploaded right after the session end, right? Ladies and gentlemen, now we already know the importance of data analytics in modern society based on the previous presentation presented by Professor Dr. Nuraisha. Mastering the data means mastering the law. When we understand the market data and analyze it, we can get the market rules. When we master the data of the product itself and analyze it, we can understand the user source of the product, user portraits, and so on. Data analytics is so important. It is not only the data structure plus algorithm of the new era, but also high ground for organizations to compete for talent. From the perspective of practitioner, the emerging trend in data analytics and data science help individual and organization not only to make decisions, but to stay relevant in the industry. Because of this dynamic factor, Dr. Samasivam will be presenting on the practice of data and analytics, data science, process in data analytics, and trend in data science. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to invite Dr. Samasivam to deliver his presentation. Doctor, over to you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Adri.
You're welcome.
It's a pleasure to meet all of you. First of all, I would like to thank the Leadership Institute for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to share. Yang Berberhajia, Dr. Sabaria Putit, Deputy State Secretary of Sarawak Civil Service, Yang Berberhajia, Dato Ismail Hanis, Director of State Human Resource Unit, Yang Berberhajia Tung Ismail said, CEO of Leadership Institute, Head of Departments, panel speakers, and also the SCS members and my friends and colleagues. It's a pleasure to meet all of you and share some of the thoughts I have in this area of data and analytics and the challenges in realizing value from this. And also, how do we go about building this capability at scale, right? So that is what I want to talk about with you. And more than sharing my ideas, and I'm also interested in learning from all of you, because some of the questions I hear in the chat are really thought-provoking. And I'm eagerly looking forward to more interactions, more questions, and learning from all of you. Yeah, let me share my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Yeah. I was looking for what kind of title I can give for this talk, right? So the state of Sarawak is celebrating in the Innovation Month on how do we build this capability in related to analytics, visualization, and so on, right? So we are actually building this capability at scale, right? Not only in Sarawak, in Malaysia at large, and even the world is looking at it. So I thought I should talk about driving analytics capability at scale. And I also wanted to talk about, I wanted to add some taglines. So if not now, then when, right? Because we are on the cusp of a dramatic transformation. So if we do not do this now, then when are we going to do this, right? So that's the first question. And second thing is, who should do this, right? Should the state do this, or the union government or the Malaysian government should do this, or who should do this, right? But it is actually us, as us means the individuals. Each and every one of us should take this capability development at scale, right? Only when we all come together and drive this, we are actually going to realize this potential in the world. And I would like to thank Professor Nuraisha, because she took the heavy lifting and she explained all the technical terms in a much simpler, easy to understand and simple, comprehensive manner. Thanks a lot, Professor Aisha. And I think that sets the context, definitions, and also the technical terms need to be understood and so on. Professor Aisha did a fantastic job. And so now I wanted to make it as a cinematic or a kind of slightly movie kind of experience to my presentation, because I was just thinking, how do I talk? How do you realize value, right? I'm a big fan of James Bond, right? I'm sure many of you would be waiting to watch No Time to Die. I'm also eagerly looking forward to when the movie would come into the theaters and so on. But I like this scene, first opening scene in Skyfall, right? I'm sure many of you would have seen Skyfall, where James Bond fights on a moving train, right, at the action-packed chasing scene. And at the end of the scene, he actually loses, right? He is not successful in that first mission. And then we subsequently introduce the villain or the antagonist. And then the James Bond faces multiple challenges. And then he goes about building his capability, building his intelligence. And eventually he goes and fights the antagonist in the final climax scene, and he wins, right? That is, if you see my presentation, that is what you will see. So without much ado, let me introduce the villain, right? So the villain are actually, there are two, right? One is a threat, other is an opportunity. So, and again, Dr. Sabaria also talked about this black swan, COVID-19 and so on, right? Which is completely unprecedented. And as you may understand, a black swan event is something that nobody can prepare for, right? Because it hits you, it's a calamitous impact, and it changes dramatically things, right? But behind such a threat is always, there is a possibility, there is an opportunity that comes to us. And as Dr. Sabaria mentioned, COVID-19 has accelerated tremendously the rate of digital transformation, right? Because now this event otherwise would have happened live. I'm sure Nadri and team would have invited me to Sarawak. I would be there meeting all of you. Now we cannot do any of this, right? So we have to do it in a platform like Zoom. And that is a challenge, but it also gives an opportunity, because only in that hall or a meeting room we would have met, but now this goes live, right? We can reach out to a larger population and we can communicate effectively. So that is an opportunity, right? So with every threat, there is always a possibility that opens up. So COVID-19 surely has impacted us all over the world, especially in Malaysia. And we are trying to overcome, we are trying to come over this challenge, and we are successful. But this has accelerated digital transformation, and we are looking at possibilities of how do we make a better use of digital transformation effectively under this pretext of the challenges posed by COVID-19. There is also another challenge, which is called the gray rhino. So gray rhino is a highly probable, enormous impact, right? Because we know this is highly probable, we know this is going to happen, but we don't give much consideration to that. We just omit it, or we say, okay, whenever it happens, we will manage it, we will see, and so on, right? To me, digital and cyber are the gray rhino scenario for people who do not consider this as important, or people who think that, okay, whenever it happens, I will see, I will react to that whenever it happens. For a gray rhino, the best thing is we can actually prepare. We can enrich ourselves. We can build a capability. We can be ready to wait and face it, because we know that it is going to happen. So digital, many may think that like Malaysia in general or Asian countries are reacting to this digital transformation. We are late and so on, right? So that may be one of the possible sentiments, but digital is going to be staying here for very, very long time, right? So we are just at the beginning of the digital transformation. So I don't think we are delayed, right? And we can actually go ahead and build our capabilities, build our value drivers, build our skills, so that we can actually make better use of this transformation and realize the full potential of that. So these are the villains or the antagonists that we have, right? So we have a challenge that we are facing, and we have this gray rhino scenario, which is the digital transformation that is going to come towards us. Now let's see the landscape that we are in, right? As I said, in Skyfall, James Bond was fighting the first scene on the train, moving train. Now we are looking at this in the digital transformation landscape that we already have, right? And as we talked about, COVID-19 has already accelerated this particular scenario. And the governments, organizations, even larger society at large, we are looking at how do we make our life in the regular track, right? How do we bring back normalcy? How do I provide the services to my citizens in the right manner, right? Every one of us are thinking, how do I live? How do I provide? How do I overcome these challenges? So the digital strategy is fast evolving. I would like to quote Satya Nadella. He once said that actually in 2020, at the beginning of the pandemic, he said that Microsoft has achieved sales, which otherwise they would have achieved in 2 years, in 2 months. So that was the rate at which the pandemic had accelerated the digital transformation. Now, as we talked about, somebody also touched upon it in the beginning, we are all working from home, right? Even if you go to office, it is going to be a hybrid working environment where some of us will be in office, some of us will be working from home. So collaborations will be a challenge and so on. So remote work is another challenge that we face. And consumer behavior is again changing, right? People are preferring food delivery with Grab or moving through online retail and so on, but not only in Malaysia, across the world. Also the behavior of consumers are changing, and also the funding is moving towards digital, right? So digital is here to stay, and if at all anything, pandemic has only accelerated the movement faster. Now, I'm sure like many of you are aware of this Industry 4.0, right? Maybe it is something from a school book kind of explanation, but I thought to put whatever we are going to discuss into context, I just wanted to briefly touch upon what is Industry 4.0, what is Industrial Revolution 4.0. So the productivity of our enterprise, our factories began with the Industrial Revolution, as we have all studied in the history books in our schools, right? And the invention of steam engine and the diesel engines, etc., had actually improved the productivity, and also we created the concept of factory because earlier it was all domestic production. Everybody was doing something in their own home, backyards, and so on. And the concept of factory, where everyone will go and do something at massive scale, started with that Industrial Revolution. Then came the age of electricity, because here, earlier, like in the first Industrial Revolution, the power or the prime moving, the energy that has to be created has to be local, right? So I have to attach a steam engine next to the machine. But with electricity, I can produce electricity somewhere, right? And then through wires, I can bring that electricity to wherever I want. So this conceptualized a new form of efficiency. And that is how the motors, generators, and the electric systems got invented. Then came the electronics, right? So computers, control systems, the age of mechatronics, etc. So that is still ongoing, right? I cannot say that the Industry 3.0 is already over. It is still ongoing at different parts of the world. It is still a very valuable, useful technologies to adapt. Now, these two revolutions are overlapping, right? So now we are beginning the Industry 4.0. And in Industry 4.0, this word was coined in Germany. And basically it means that it is going to be cyber physical. It is till Industry 3.0, it is all physical systems. You have to go and see something in a physical place and work there physically. And with digital, it is going to be cyber physical, means the blur between, it's going to be blurred between what is physical and what is real or what is physical. So there is a cyber physical, so there is a blur. We cannot exactly say, are we interacting in a real world or in a virtual world, right? Again, like in the future, right? Some of these conferences, there will be live audience physically present, and there will be audiences who may be watching them in their homes or other locations. And even we can have virtual reality where I may appear like we see in movies, right? I can appear in 3D form and interact with people and so on, right? Digital is all possible and so on. So this is the age of digital where we are actually going into the cyber physical world. Now, another thing that is accelerating, as Professor Aisha already explained in great detail, is that any digital solution would create a lot of data. Now, this data comes in different forms, shapes, and methods, and so on. For example, we are talking about connected devices. Now, what are connected devices, right? For our example, our mobile phones are connected, right? Because every one of us are connected to the net, and every one of us exchanging data. We are talking over phone, so it creates a lot of data. Our smart TVs are connected to the network, right? So suppose you are watching Netflix, you're watching Amazon, or you're watching any other platforms, and your smart TV is connected to the network, right? We are talking about smart cars. And if you see, everything is getting connected, right? With or without we consciously looking at it, we are all connecting ourselves more and more into the network, right? By 2025, we expect that more than 50 billion devices are going to be connected to the network. Now, these 50 billion devices are going to exchange data, and a lot of data is being created. Now, if you see, as Professor Aisha mentioned, it creates a lot of data points, right? So it can be in form of structured data points, or it can be in terms of video, audio, text, etc. Right? Now, earlier, maybe 5-10 years before, your superior, if he or she asks, okay, give me the data, we all would expect that, okay, I will go with an Excel file, or I will go with a chart, plot, and so on, right? So data is always numbers to us, right? That is how we understand. But data today is not numbers alone. And as Professor Aisha mentioned, only 20% of the data is structured. More than 80% of the data is unstructured. Now, if you want to understand exactly what is data, you can just look at your mobile phone and go to consumption of data. So whatever is consuming your data is all the data that we are talking about. So you will be talking, you will be watching in YouTube, or you will be writing something in text. Everything is data, right? So now, how do we unlock value from this data, which is completely a new form of data, which I don't understand. I understand numbers. I understand things in columns and rows, but this is completely haphazard, right? How do I understand from an email? How do I understand from a video without watching it, right? So I need to run algorithms to get this kind of insights. Then this is also another contributing factor to this enormous amount of data creation is the computing power. For example, all our mobile phones, right? Smartphones, the power of computing that we have was exactly the computing power we had 2 years before in our laptops or in our desktops. So we have to carry that big machine to carry everywhere. Now we can carry it in my mobile phone and get this kind of computing power. So the computing power is accelerated, and also the memory programs, everything is accelerated. So that is adding a lot of power to the computing, and we can churn a large amount of data and get value. And the last one I wanted to talk about in this landscape is also the application landscape. Earlier, if I want to get something, either I have to buy that application or I have to develop that application, right? And the timelines were very large. I have to develop different things, and I have to do testing, validation, look for investment, etc. So the adoption was always slow. Now we can actually take these applications on hire or on subscription, right? If I want to use it for 1 month, I can just use it for 1 month. And if I don't like it, I can just unsubscribe, right? Like all of us are doing it in different forms, right? Including our travel, right? You call Grab, right? You don't need to own a car, right? I can call Grab, go there somewhere, and then unsubscribe, means pay off, and then that's the end of it, right? So this is where we are moving. So we are moving to a subscription world more and more, and not to an ownership model. So this also accelerates innovation. This also creates more possibilities. This also creates additional possibilities for experimentation. So this is also another possible way where digital transformation is enabled. And with doing this so much of data that we have, right, there is something called 5 V's of big data, right? What is, I have written only 4 V's. You may ask, where is the 5th V? The 5th V is hidden. So, so we talk about volume, velocity, variety, veracity, and value, right? The value is the 5th V, which is hidden. So there was a very good question in the chat, right, by Noor Faradil Dayu Rahman. She asked, how do you know the data is genuine data, right? How do you say that is genuine data, which is what I wanted to talk about in veracity. So let's talk about the volume, right? As Professor Aisha mentioned, we are creating a lot of data, right? Now, can we pump in all this data into our analytics and generate insights? So how much data can we handle, right? Can we go from an Excel file to a large database and churn the insights from there, right? So that is the volume of it. When we want to talk about live decision making, right? Can I take an action quickly, right? There is someone saying something. Can a government official go and take a quick action? How fast that action can be taken? So what is the velocity at which the data can be handled? So that the solution should enable the velocity part of it. And the variety is, should I use only structured data to take analytics, or can I also use unstructured data? Can I use text and structured data combined? Can I use video and text data combined, and so on, right? We can combine multiple data together and churn our insights. That is a variety. And veracity is where we are all going to struggle, or it's going to be very challenging, because according to one of the estimates, with large amount of data being continuously generated, the accuracy or reliability of the data is going to exponentially go down. So today, the estimate says that of the global data that we have, only 25 to 30% of the data is reasonably accurate, and we know the origin of this data, and we know the exact nature, right, where it is created, who created the data, and how accurate that information, and so on. Only 25 to 30% of the data we know well, and the remaining data is kind of ambiguous, right? We don't know whether we can take reliable action with that kind of data or not. It may not be a major problem for organizations like Petronas or Maxis and so on, because we kind of generate the data internally. But when we want to use the data at large with public spaces and so on, this is going to be a challenging problem, and even analytics can help identify the variety and the veracity of the data there. So if we handle all these 4 V's well, then we can unlock the 5th V, which is a value, and get value there, right? So this is what the landscape we are in. Now I'm going to introduce a superhero to all of you, right? Which is AI, right? Artificial intelligence. When I hear this word, and I'm sure you also would be thinking, so as soon as we hear this word AI, we always think about this Hollywood movies and what we see in the movies, right? There is some complete artificial intelligence alien to us, and they can do fantastic things which otherwise we cannot imagine, etc., right? This is the kind of thought process we would have. But I just want to pull you back to the ground, right? The AI that we are talking about is in none of this, right? None of this is still possible, and I don't think it is going to be possible in the near future also. The AI that we talk about is something much more human, much more useful, and much more efficient. To introduce that AI, this is an old Microsoft video. So let me play this video for a couple of minutes so that you can understand what kind of AI that we are talking about.
I'm Saqib Sheikh. I lost my sight when I was 7, and shortly after that I went to a school for the blind, and that's where I was introduced to talking computers, and that really opened up a whole new world of opportunities. I joined Microsoft 10 years ago as a software engineer. I love making things which improve people's lives, and one of the things I've always dreamt of since I was at university was this idea of something that could tell you at any moment what's going on around you.
think it's a man jumping in the air doing a trick on a skateboard.
I teamed up with like-minded engineers to make an app which lets you know who and what is around you. It's based on top of the Microsoft Intelligence APIs, which makes it so much easier to make this kind of thing. The app runs on smartphones, but also on the Pivot Head smart glasses. When you're talking to a bigger group, sometimes you can talk and there's no response and you think, is everyone listening really well or are they half asleep? And you never know.
I see two faces, 40-year-old man with a beard looking surprised, 20-year-old woman looking happy.
The app can describe the general age and gender of the people around me and what their emotions are, which is incredible. One of the things that's most useful about the app is the ability to read out text.
Hello, good afternoon. Here's your menu.
Great, thank you. I can use the app on my phone to take a picture of the menu, and it's going to guide me on how to take that correct photo.
Move camera to the bottom right and away from the document.
And then it'll recognize the text. Read me the headings.
I see appetizers, salads, paninis, pizzas, pastas.
Hi. Years ago, this was science fiction. I never thought it would be something that you could actually do, but artificial intelligence is improving at an ever faster rate, and I'm really excited to see where we can take this. As engineers, we're always standing on the shoulders of giants, building on top of what went before. And in this case, we've taken years of research from Microsoft Research to pull this off.
I think it's a young girl throwing an orange frisbee in the park.
For me, it's about taking that far-off dream and building it one step at a time. I think this is just the beginning.
Yep, I would request you to watch this video. This is available in YouTube, and it talks about the possibilities that we have today in artificial intelligence. Right now, you may think that now is it going to be very difficult for me to use such a solution? For example, if we want to use this, no, again, I'm not a salesperson for Microsoft here, but it is just you can go and subscribe this service, right? Microsoft has made it as a subscription. And if you want to use it in our app, for example, we build some app, I want this service to be used, I can just subscribe and I can pay to Microsoft on a pay-per-use kind of option, right? Depends on how many times I call that API of Microsoft at the backend, I need to pay to Microsoft, right? It's not only Microsoft, we have this kind of possibilities with multiple other service providers, right? And even other platforms can give this kind of subscription. So this is what I was talking about earlier, right? We don't need to build some of these things, right? We can actually leverage from what has been available and we can experiment, we can try out different things. But not everything can be achieved, obviously, by subscription. We have to build our own capabilities and we have to build our own models as well. But the possibilities are endless. With the way we want to use the stuff are endless. Now, I also want to quote one of the very interesting questions I just saw in the chat room. Is by Mr. Henry Jalin. He asked a very, very, very important question. That is nothing but what is the right problem to solve, right? This is where all of us pull our hairs and struggle, right? This is going to be the biggest problem to solve because we don't know what is the right problem, right? So that is what I wanted to actually talk about in the next part of my talk. Like, how do we unlock value using data science, right? To unlock value from data science, the first thing I have to do is that I have to define the right problem, because defining the right problem is that I can go in the right direction, right? If I want to go to, say, for example, from Sarawak to Sabah, I need to take the right road, right? To take the right highway to go there, right? But if I go in the opposite direction, I'm not going to reach Sabah, right? So defining the right problem is very, very important. Now, I want to talk about these two pyramids in the left first, right? So let's look at the asset pyramid first, right? And again, this is something Professor Aisha also talked about, right? How do we build from the raw data or the data that we have? How do we build information? From information, we build knowledge. From knowledge, we build expertise. And from expertise, we build wisdom, right? This is how we as human beings learn across multiple decades and centuries of data that we have created. Plus in digital world, we also have this kind of data. So we always move from data, information, knowledge, expertise, and then wisdom, right? So this is how we create or we exploit the assets that we have. But if you see the other pyramid, which is the value pyramid, which is inverted, that means if I use only data and information, I'm not going to get a lot of value, right? I will be only operate the services I have, or the governance I have to do, or the business I have to run, right? So we will be only doing that. But if I generate information on knowledge, then I can look for improvements. And if I develop expertise, then I can develop efficiency and transformation, right? And if I develop wisdom and embed it in my processes and so on, I can develop key differentiators. I can pull my customers towards me. I can generate much more value and so on. So while we have a lot of data, we'll have less information, less knowledge, less expertise, and wisdom less, right? So that is how the pyramids will look like. But we need to move up this pyramid so that we can get higher and higher value from the value pyramids. Now, the process of getting this asset pyramid converted into value pyramid is nothing but data science. So as you see, we go from data to information, and from information we generate knowledge, and from knowledge we generate insights. Now, how do we do it? Again, as explained by Professor Aisha, we can use different types of analytics by asking different kinds of questions, right? If you, again, I'm just maybe asking, answering Mr. Henry Jalin's question, right? Defining the right problem is nothing but asking the right questions. So we need to ask those questions so that we can define what we need to do. Say, for example, if the question is, what is happening, right? If I ask that question, then I'm asking about a description of a situation. So I'm talking about descriptive analytics. But if I ask why this is happening in this situation, right? Then I'm talking about diagnostics. I'm looking at root cause analysis. I'm looking for cause-effect relationships, etc. Right? So because we are asking a question of why. So then we are looking at a diagnostic kind of analytics. Now, if I ask what will happen tomorrow, what will happen next week, if this trend goes on, right, what will be next year's projections, etc., then we are asking about prediction in the future. Okay, this is what I want to know what is going to be like we do with COVID-19 projection, right? Like the government has developed models, and we say that, okay, if this trend continues, what would be the scenario towards, right? What is the R factor, where it will be, right? We are answering something that would happen or likely to happen in the future. If you want to know that, then we are in the area of predictive analytics. And if you want to look for options, right? Having predicted something, if I want to say, what is my best case forward? What kind of actions can I take? What options I have? What would be the impact of this action if I take? What would happen to the outcome, etc.? Then we are talking about prescriptive analytics, because we are looking for prescription. Like you would go and ask a doctor, I have this problem. The doctor would give us a prescription, right? These are the things you can do, right? You go for exercise, you take this medicine and change your food habits, etc., etc., right? So then the doctor gives us options, prescriptions. The same way, having predicted certain things, we can also look for the best case, best course forward. And that is nothing but a prescription kind of analytics. Now, having identified what kind of analytics I am looking for, then that would guide us what kind of algorithms I need to choose. There are multiple algorithms, right? There are more than 100, 150 different types of families of algorithms we can actually use in data science to generate insights. But basically what we do is we have two kinds of problems, what we call as supervised learning or unsupervised learning. Supervised learning is like the way a child learns, right? We say that, okay, this is apple and this is A, right? So we say A for apple, right? So the child repeats this again and again with different types of apple. Physically, I can give a child an apple, or I can show a picture, I can show a video, I can show different types of apple. Then the child would learn. But even later, if I show a green apple, also the child can say that, oh, this is apple, right? Because the child learns different features. It identifies how an apple feels, how the apple looks. It uses the senses to identify the feel of an apple. So that is called a supervised learning. But sometimes we don't have an apple, right? I just want to find out a trend or find out a pattern without defining what I'm looking for. Then we have to talk about unsupervised learning, which is nothing but clustering. So for example, I just want to give the population of Sarawak state to the model, and I have certain data points. And then I want to say that group this population into certain meaningful insights I want to get. So let's group the population, right? And I don't have any idea of how to group it, right? Then we can also come up with clustering and different kinds of algorithms. And we can also use object detection or identifying different characteristics in the video or image and so on. We can also use that. And many of us are already using what I show at the bottom, right? Which is text prediction, right? We are using in our mobile phones, right? So we type, phone suggests us, okay, this is the next word you want to type. Or if I type 2 alphabets, then it says that this is the word you are trying to type and so on. So this is what is already embedded in our apps and so on. We can also use many different types of text analytics algorithms and so on. I'm not getting into the technical part of how these different algorithms can be leveraged and so on, because Professor Aisha has already talked about it. I just want to focus on how do we unlock value, right? To unlock value, we have to run different projects, right? And I'm sure the audience here, you have been running multiple projects simultaneously, because I'm sure in the government, you would have many projects running parallelly, and as senior officers, you would be actually handling different tasks, right? And so we have different challenges in any projects. We have timelines to be met, we have different phases, we have to keep our stakeholders informed, and we have to keep the cost under control, and we have to also build skills in the team. There can be gaps in the skills, and we also need to realize the value that we wanted to do. There are different challenges that in any projects that we face. But the way we want to run the project, there are 2 different approaches we can take. One is called a waterfall approach, and other is called an agile approach. So let us talk about the waterfall approach first. So in the waterfall approach, let's say I want to make a fantastic artwork, right? Like, for example, Mona Lisa, right? If Leonardo da Vinci planned it out, I don't know how Leonardo painted it, but we can paint it this way, right? So first I will paint the upper portion of the face, right? But I will paint it very, very, very accurately to all nuances, all details. Then I will go to the face, full face. Then I will gradually go and work on the other details. Then after this, I will complete the full painting, right? So this can be one approach. So this is what we normally do things when we have done it multiple times, right? So because if I develop an IT project, or if I want to run a government, say infrastructure development, etc., we know exactly how to do it because we have done it multiple times in the past. So we can gather requirements, we can do design, then we can implement, we can verify, we can go into maintenance, right? We can do in steps because we have done it multiple times. We are very, very thorough, and we have that expertise. So this approach works in waterfall approach. But if we go to an agile approach, where it is helpful is when we do something for the first time, because I don't have any experience of doing this, or I have a general vague idea of what I want to do, but I do not know exactly how to do it. But when I do not know exactly how to do it, then if I develop a firm plan, then that plan is of no use, right? Again, I want to go back to Professor Noor Aisha's quote, right? If I have an approximate problem, I should not look for an exact solution, right? So that is the same challenge that we have. So since the problem that I have, or the value that I want to look for, I'm not sure exactly how this whole thing will work. So we should not be investing heavily upfront. That is how the experimental mindset comes in. So I need to develop a small experiment first, see whether this thing works, right? And once I do that experiment, I get the feedback and it is successful, then I go to the next iteration, develop the next, add some additional features and do that experiment. So the same design, implement, verify, maintain. This cycle, I repeat multiple times over and above, and I can continue this journey. Because why this approach is helpful? Because after the first iteration, I may conclude that maybe the definition of this problem is not accurate. I should not be solving what happened. I should be actually asking the question, what can happen, right? Then I can change my approach to a different direction and I can go and solve that problem. So I can keep iterating and look for a path and move towards the value. So this is the agile approach main concept is progress over perfection. So I don't need to be perfect at every step, but I need to make progress. So as long as we make progress, we don't worry about perfection. We can just live with imperfect solutions. So that is the approach that we want to take. And I just want to highlight how the government of Malaysia has done this, say, My Sejahtera app development, right? So if you see how this app came in, initially it did not have a lot of features, right? So we had a very simple features and we couldn't do many of the things. Then we said, okay, there is a new vaccine I need to roll out, right? So I need to collect information about who wants to go, and I need to find out who needs to get what vaccine. I need to enable the appointments and et cetera, et cetera. The vaccine management came in. So they iterated another approach and developed, perfected that say option or the feature, and that came in. Then now we are going back, we are moving into the endemic phase. Now we need to also do self-testing and we need to also track the testing status, etc. Now that option came in. Now tomorrow that can be another requirement that may come in. So this particular app is an example how we can iterate and keep adding features and correcting the course and identifying requirements, and we can keep enriching the approach. So this can be a way where we de-risk and also we identify the best course forward by continuously approaching. So the way we do is that we actually we adapt Scrum as one of the, there are multiple agile frameworks. So one of the widely used framework is called the Scrum framework. So in this Scrum framework, we bring in a multi-dimensional team. That means a cross-functional team, right? Because in any digital project, we cannot only work with experts like Mr. Nadri or only the data scientists or data engineers, etc. It's not going to work because we need to also answer what kind of problem we want to solve. How are we going to implement this? What kind of value we are going to get? How am I going to implement? There are multiple challenges we need to talk. So that is why a cross-functional team needs to be formed. Once we form the cross-functional team, we collect the product backlog. That means what are all the things that this product can have, right? So we write everything that we can say, but we don't start developing or we don't make plan for developing all of them because it is, as I said, we don't know whether this backlog is meaningful or not, because this backlog is the information that we have today without using the product, without knowing what product I want to develop, or I don't know whether this product will be effective or not. Yeah. Then subsequently, we move to a planning meeting and we identify what are the important question that I have to answer and what are the backlogs I can take and develop. And then we go about developing this sprint. Once we develop this sprint, we go and test it, we implement it. Then we take items from the backlog and we redevelop additional features. And this continues for as long as we can add value and we continue to develop this particular solution. And since this solution is already used, like for example, in the My Sejahtera explanation, My Sejahtera was already getting used. So we are kind of iterating and using it again.
Yes, thank you, Doctor. Such an interesting process framework. I can say that since that we have a very limited time right now, Doctor, maybe you can summarize and give about plus minus 1 minute. Would it be okay for you, Doctor?
Yep, thank you. Right. Okay, so let me talk about what are the key characteristics a good data scientist should have, right? As Professor Aisha mentioned already, there are multiple skills that are needed, but it's basically mathematics, domain knowledge, and computer science. So we are looking at curiosity as the most important characteristics, right? One has to be curious to actually be a scientist and also a data scientist. The curiosity leads to a learning orientation. One has to continue learning. and continue upskilling oneself. That is very important. And curiosity and learning leads to exploration or experimentation. We need to identify different opportunities. And with exploration comes, we need to also have mathematics, because data scientists use maths a lot. So STEM subjects, maths and all will be very helpful. And we can obviously need to learn programming. And the last but not the least is storytelling. And that is what I was doing so far. Thank you. Thanks a lot. Over to you.
Right. Thank you so much, Dr. Sambasibam, for your informative and exciting presentation. Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the question and answer session. Just to inform the participants that we have a very limited time right now. We try our level best to answer all of the questions. If we can cover all the questions, Secretariat team will capture the questions and get back to you right after the session. All right. So let me just read the questions first. Dr. Sambasibam, if you may, can you mute your mic? Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, this is for Dr. Sambasibam to answer these questions. Yeah, from Mr. Ismail. Whilst having a data strategy is important, many organizations are indicating that another key to success is creating data culture. In the context of public sector, what best practices for your organization or others can we replicate for the Sarawak Civil Service? This question is for Dr. Sambasibam. You can answer that question, Doctor.
Yep. Thanks a lot, Ismail, for the question. So any data system should address three criteria. So the first one is confidentiality of the data. The second part is accessibility of the data. And the third one is, say, the value that we can unlock from this data. So different data that we may collect may have different requirements for these three factors. So having identified what kind of confidentiality we need to have and what kind of say access we need to provide. Say, for example, when I'm talking about access, some of the data may have to be with the government only. Some of this data can be made accessible for the common citizens, etc. So we need to identify that. So with that, we can develop systems, at multi-layered systems and so on. So if I have to draw upon the experiences that we have, again, an agile approach to do a small pilot to see how the whole thing can work, that is important. So we can develop at a small scale, identify how this can be developed, and then we can scale subsequently. So I would suggest that it is always better to develop it in a very small scale with the cheaper cost possible to see whether the thing works, and then we can add features and scale it at a state level and beyond.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rajamani. I hope that answered to your question, Mr. Ismail Said. All right, let's move to the next question so that we have a very limited time right now. This question is for Professor Dr. Noraisha. There's a question for you, Professor Noraisha. How open is Malaysian in data sharing in this data capitalization era? Doctor, perhaps you can share your view on this, Professor.
Yeah, I'm just trying to answer this, okay? It's a hard question, okay? I think, because I think this, you know, it is about data democratization. And I think until it becomes our culture, okay, then it's easier to have this kind of sharing. Okay, at the moment, what we have, at the moment, what I see, as you correctly, I mean, some of you did ask whether, you know, genuine data and so on. I think that is also another issue, okay? So until we have this as a culture to be very transparent, okay, I think that will be, you know, a sort of answer to the problem that we have. I think for organizations like the universities, now that we are into rankings and we are into data sharing, so we are now into that kind of mode that, you know, we have to be transparent and we have to check our data and so on, so that, you know, it is usable and it is comparable to the others. I think we have to be kind of sort of, you know, that sort of having faith that, you know, this is for the benefits of, you know, and making sure that, you know, we are going into, you know, more progressive and, you know, to a better organizations. I think this is really hard at the moment for the Malaysian culture. I don't know about you, Cik Nadri, but I in fact, when I, you know, even in, you know, Kementerian, yes, we have data sharing, but sometimes, you know, when we have a data sharing, we also ask them lightly that whenever you want to show your data, share it with us first, because we want to see how you analyze our data, because sometimes the wrong usage of, you know, the wrong interpretation gives you a bad image for the organization, and that is what people are scared about. Okay, so sometimes when you look at, you know, when we try to, you know, especially in rankings as well, whenever you want to use the data, usually you will be given what are the tools to use in order to analyze this, okay, so that you will have the right, okay, and the comparable sort of results that you know, that is very, you know, useful to you, because otherwise, you know, you can have so many findings and so on. Okay, but I think for academic exercise, that's okay to explore. Okay? But for a genuine sort of you know, usable sort of you know, results, I think this is the case. I hope that answers you.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So that's basically about data democratization. It's the biggest challenges that we need to face in order to ensure that data sharing is secure for everyone. Now, next question for Dr. Samba Sivam. Question from Leadership Institute. Yeah, playing a huge role in big data, machine learning is another technology expected to impact our future drastically. Yeah. In your organization, that would be Petronas, yeah, from the perspective of Petronas, or beyond, how you are organization preparing to embrace this search? Dr. Rajamani.
You are talking about data searchability, is it?
Yes, data searchability. When we wanted to implement this machine learning.
Yep. So this is again increasingly going to be a very important aspect, because like if you say that data is of value, then I need to know where I've kept that value, right? So if I say I have money, then I need to know where I've kept the money, right? So basically it's that. So what we are trying to build is we have plans of developing an enterprise level data hub. And so we are working on cataloging and storing the data, and also making sure that the data is confidential as well as it is accessible to the right person for the right action. So we are using both available technologies, and also we are using machine learning and artificial intelligence to search these different data fields. Because when I say data, it's not only numbers, right? As I said, it can be reports, it can be articles, or it can be images, video, etc. Right? It can be all different types of data that Petronas has. So we are in the process of cataloging it and also making accessible to the right person at with the right level of accessibility and so on. So that is the effort that we are doing. But as I mentioned, there is no perfect solution to this, right? So we keep identifying, we keep asking the questions. What is the most important question for the moment? And then we try to address that question. And we keep iterating on the questions continuously. So it is a gradual build-up than one solution which has already been perfected.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your answer, Dr. Rajamani. So since we have a very limited time right now, let's take one more questions for Dr. Rajamani and Prof. Dr. Nuraishah to answer. Yeah. So this is something to do with what we call learning. You know, are there ideas of way or learning processes to everyone that such essential data transformation and format that can be applied or practiced in daily work system? So, Professor, you can answer this question first.
Can you repeat that question? Sorry.
Yeah.
Can you repeat, Najri?
Yeah, the question is asking, are there ideas or ways of learning process to everyone that such essential data transformation and format that can be applied or practiced in daily work system? Basically, this question is asking, how do we get people jump into the bandwagon?
Yeah. I think there are ideas and ways of doing this. Okay, but I think usually what we do is that, you know, through training, some kind of sort of structured trainings. Okay, and really, you know, to provide this kind of trainings for people working in such areas. Okay, for example, and that training has got to be very specific, because usually what we have is that we don't have this kind of training that are specific, but I think these are very specific into this kind of domain. Okay, for example, you're looking into kind of statistics, okay, and also this and also on data itself. Okay, so it's a huge thing. I think this is the things that we call functional courses and so on. So I think these are the things that can be done. And with that, I think from that kind of programs, okay, this kind of help in solving problems, and also people bringing in problem to the class, okay, can actually sort of assist and try to cope with some of these challenges. Because I don't think it's just like touch and go, because sometimes it's just touch and go, maybe just the overall, just the surface. But I think it has got to be just beyond that, okay? Because it's a real sort of, if you don't have a proper training, maybe you need some structured trainings, okay? And I think it can work, okay? We have done this, okay? And I think at my institutions, at least my unit, okay, even our support staff, such as our N29, are able to use, things like Excel and also analyze some simple sort of, data analysis kind of things. So it is actually usable. And, at the higher end, maybe, courses, okay, as I was looking at some other things, okay, that can actually be embedded and enhance your understanding. Maybe I think from now, maybe we should okay, start investing in this kind of programs, okay, where, your Coursera has got a lot of programs, okay, and there are many free online courses, and also some are certification. But I think if you think this is important, maybe the department organization may invest a little bit on certification programs, okay, so where the staff actually spend time looking at this, okay, and this is where I mentioned about support that can be provided by the organizations.
All right.
Okay.
How about you, Dr. Rajamani?
Yeah, so again, I agree with Professor Aisha, right? So there are, but I just want to add an additional layer to that. It depends on whether one wants to be a professional, data science professional, or one wants to get himself or herself equipped with that. So, for example, programming is very important for a professional data scientist as of now, but there are also a lot of low-code, no-code solutions, right? For example, in Anaconda, there is something called Orange. We also use Microsoft Azure ML Studio. So these platforms allow oneself, once you kind of ideate what to do, these platforms help you to play with, experiment, and you can do without even writing code. Like one can learn like Excel, one can also learn these tools faster. So to me, it's most important thing is curiosity. With curiosity, if you can go through an initial introductory exposure or training, as Professor Aisha mentioned, then it is up to that individual how that person wants to pursue. But the world is, or the network or the internet is full of information, right? So one can get as much as you want. Even you don't need to pay for any of this because a lot of things are available for free. It is actually the curiosity and the learning orientation that can take the person forward. But if you're talking about professional data scientists, then there are multiple courses available, right? So we can go through that and actually learn that together.
There could be a lot of multiple tools, right, Professor and Doctor, that can be used for the purpose of learning, like what you said just now, Anaconda environment that's come with one package. All right, Professor and Doctor, we are toward the ends of our session. Again, thank you so much for sharing with us your experience, especially on the practices, example, and recommendation. I would say such a fruitful discussion and interesting session, right? Exploring and analyzing the potential use data and analytics in SES help us leverage the SES competency and support state government initiative in digital government. Data analytics are not new area to be explored. It is the area that need to be leveraged to benefit from decision-making, strategies, and planning. Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we come to the end of our webinar session. We want to say thanks again to our honor guest yang berbahagia, Datuk Dr. Sabariah Putit, Deputy State Secretary, Performance and Service Delivery and Transformation, Dato' Ismail Anis, Tuan Ismail, CEO of Leadership Institute, SSMU, SCS, Mampu, and panel speaker for informative and exciting talks, Doctor and Professor. And for State and Federal Agency, and to the audience, thank you for your active participation. Hopefully this session will be beneficial for everybody. Appreciate your attention. Assalamualaikum, good morning, and bye-bye.
Salam. Thank you.